All right. So once we've got our current state, we understand where we're at, and we can have a basic idea of, do we think we have issues or things that we would like to be concerned with? The next step would be our future state. So where do we want to be? Are there things that we want to be able to do that we can't right now, or we need to because business has changed, line of business, mobile employees, different things along those lines. And then we look at the cost benefit. When we first bought the system, the cost benefit was, it was a significant improvement over the systems you were using previously, and you want to continue on that track of being able to continue to improve and be efficient with what you're using. And the last one is effort. What's the effort level involved of staying with what you have now, upgrading, improving, and making changes to the system you have now, or making an outright change and buying a new car, getting something that would be more affordable, more efficient, and more appropriate to your current business needs. All right. So what we're going to look at now is we're just going to cover off a little bit of what we're looking at here. So with our current state, we're looking at our fancy car, and we're deciding, is it time to look at what we're doing? Are we having issues? Are we finding, and the big one we usually find is people are doing double entry again. You may have been doing things all in one system for a while, and now you've come to the point where you're starting to do entry into Excel spreadsheets or entry into a third-party system and then manually keying it into another system. So we're going to go through those kind of things. It's time. Is it time to take a look at what we're doing here? The small inefficiencies are really adding up. Every time I take my car into the shop, it's a little thing here, little things there. I have all minor maintenance things, but they're adding up to the point where do I want to continue that way, or should I be replacing it or doing an overhaul and making sure it's right up to where I want it to be? So those are the kinds of things we're looking at here. Are the number of steps needed to complete a task increasing? Can I translate the loss of efficiency to an actual cost? So all of these extra steps or this information I'm trying to track outside of my system, is there a way to quantify those costs to say I'm wasting or I'm exerting an extra 8 or 16 hours a month doing something that I shouldn't have to do? The system should be able to do it for me. Or maybe a system could do it for me. And is the amount of time and resources that go into maintaining the system increasing? Do I spend more time on updates and backups and making changes to the way the system works because the business has changed? There's a lot of little things like that that we need to look at to see, is it time for us to do a health check and see if there's something better? Are our business needs outgrowing the system's capabilities? So in this case, we're overloading our little system and we're trying to do more with it than it was intended to do. And maybe that's slowing us down, maybe that's becoming unsafe, anything along those lines. So we want to make sure that those are the things we look at. Are the maintenance fees becoming unmanageable? Are customizations constantly being needed to be added to the system because it's growing? And is your head count, the number of users that are accessing the system, increasing and causing the cost of the system to continue to go up? Or vice versa, your head count is going up, but you're not allowing all of those users to get access to the data. Now, our customers' needs aren't being met. Our suppliers and customers not getting the information they need without a manual process to be done. Is your invoice generating the correct way? Are your suppliers being paid correctly and efficiently? Are they getting purchase orders out the way they need to? Are the number of phone calls that you have to take, or even emails from customers, suppliers, partners, are those increasing because they need more information that's not readily being sent to them? So those are some of the things that we're looking at. And then workplace dynamics. our headcount's changed. We have more people. We're trying to get more people in the same system, and it's not really efficient that way. So we're trying to see if, has our business model moved away from a central office to more remote access? People are working from home, or they're working from the road, or different offices, causing difficulties connecting to a centralized system. Are your contractors that are working with you or partners struggling to keep up because they can't get access to the information that you need, or they can't provide you with the information you need? And then the last part of this is information flow, making sure the timelines stay relevant, I guess. You want to make sure that all your information is flowing back and forth correctly in a reasonable amount of time. You're not taking extra days to get information to the right people. So this continues on that. Are your employees mobile, but your system not as much? What that sort of brings us to is, yeah, we've got them out there, but we're not providing them with all of the tools they need. They have to constantly be stopping somewhere to get information. Your current workforce has more decentralized demands, and there's not a mobile device enabled for them. They can't just get it on their phone or on a tablet or laptop somewhere from a hotel or restaurant, anywhere that they're looking at. And then the cost of building such a web-enabled app for your current system would be cost prohibitive. So those are the types of things that we look at as well. And we're seeing that becoming more and more of an issue. Employees are having to dig for up-to-date information. They need that information, but even if they're in the system, they're having to look around for it in multiple places, or possibly even multiple systems again. Back to what it was prior to buying your most recent system. Maybe that has started to creep up on you again. So your spreadsheet farms are starting to grow. The requests back to head office to ask for things are becoming more popular. And you want to make your business more agile, but you're hampered by the timeliness and quality of the information you're able to get out of your system. All of these things are things that we look at to see if there is room for improvement, and how we would go about looking at reviewing, is it something that you need to do? Your system isn't keeping up with the change, so yeah, not sure. What we want to look at is, in this kind of thing, is hardware, software. You have to keep up your hardware. Every so many versions, you're needing to buy new servers, new server licensing, and software for that. So we want to just make sure, and then there's all the maintenance and updates of all of those things. So it's the infrastructure costs that keep growing. Do you need to be on-premise, or should you be in a software as a service, a cloud environment? Is the one or the other better for you? Yeah. And yeah, our infrastructure. So now, once we get through that, we get to our future state. And our future state now says, we want to say, do I need a flying car? Is one of the things we look at. So what we want to look at here now are all the items we just talked about. So what are we not good at right now? What does our desired workflow look like? Over the years, the way we used to do business isn't the same way we're doing it now. Maybe you have more people, you have less people that you have to do the same amount of work with. You have to have routing of the information, approvals, all of those things that have to be done a little bit differently than you had originally, and you want to be able to see what you want them to be. So what we need is, we go through and we say, not what you're doing now, we've already had that look, but we want to say, what would it look like ideally if we were going forward? Same thing with what needs to be supported by one system. If you have one system now and everything's in it, that's fantastic. You were great. But over time, you find, oh yeah, I need an HR program, or I need to track documents like this, or there's different things you may be looking for. So you've slowly, over the years, you've started adding in third-party systems, or you've manually created a system. We want to see which of those things should be included in one system. It allows everybody to see it in one place. It allows for single entry again. Things like payroll, maybe not. You might say, I'm happy with my payroll being in an external system, but you want some of the other components of things that you're tracking to be included. How do we level out our workload? What is the time frame for the change on this? If our business model has changed already, should we be changing our internal, business management system? Should it be immediately, or should we be looking at 6 months, a year, 2 years from now? It's just kind of a planning thing of saying, what if we had our future state, when would we want it to be? And what process improvements are necessary? Are we doing too many steps? Are we overcomplicating our lives because of the way our system is forcing us to do them? So just getting back to the idea of what would an ideal system or process be if the system wasn't dictating how we wanted to do it. And then we have to go through and say, what's the cost benefit? Do I go to a flying car? That's awesome. I had my nice little car, got me around, maybe my minivan. The guy down the street had a Porsche. Well, maybe I've gone to the flying car because I need to get around. I need to be more mobile than he does, or more information that way. So what we're looking at on here is we're kind of saying, just like we're looking at it with a car, our business management system has to look at the cost benefit. There's not really any need to say, hey, I have a Ford right now, but I'd like to have a Mercedes. The only reason you'd want to do that is if there was a benefit to it. Yes, there's always that prestige thing, but most of the time you'd want to say, if the Mercedes isn't going to provide me with a benefit, a cost benefit to it, why would I want to go there? So we want to look at those kind of things and say, what are the system holes we have now? What are the system needs going forward? And we want to say, what is the cost of the new system versus the cost of not doing anything? And that's really what we're going to get into, is we would look at 3 different types of costs now, with the first being your hard costs. Fixed costs that are they're tangible. You buy a server, you buy software that goes on that server, you're paying annual maintenance fees for the software, those kind of things. Those are the hard costs, and we can pretty much document those pretty easily. I buy a server, I've got an AP invoice that tells me it was $5,000 or whatever the amount was. Same with my software costs. Those ones are the easy ones to add in. Our soft costs are a little bit harder to get into, but they're the people costs. How much time am I spending maintaining that system? How much time am I spending keeping the system up and running and working with the system to keep all my data the way it should be? And the last one that we always try to look at is hidden costs. It's the personal or personnel costs of running a current system where I continually am customizing reporting. Do I have to use an external system? And if I do, how much time am I spending maintaining it, backing it up, moving data between one process and the other, all the data entry costs? So we get all of those kind of things. What would be the hidden or really soft costs of staying on the system I'm at now? This is very popular for companies that are growing. Am I spending too much time on these little hidden costs or hidden tasks? And if I got rid of those hidden tasks, we could increase our business by 50% without having to add more people. Or in the case of the economy that we've had recently, could I run my business on fewer people? So times are getting tight. I need to be able to do all the same things I used to do, but with 20% fewer people in my office. Or just to be more efficient so that you can be 20% more efficient, or whatever percent you're looking at, just so that you can continue to make more of a profit at a lower a tighter margin, lower costs. Once we've done that, we evaluate our avenues. We would say, let's say, okay, if we stay the course, here's our hard, soft, and hidden costs. We can say, let's fix what we have. We already have it. Let's just utilize it better, make it more efficient, streamline things the way we need to, maybe do an upgrade. Or the last one was make the change and change to something else, another system possibly, and see what it is that the cost would be. If a person sitting at their desk and creates a report, that needs to be included, excuse me, in your evaluations. All right. And now, how do we bring that discussion together? So we've gone through and we've said, okay, we have our current state, we have our future state, and we've now joined those two with the cost benefit and said, what is the cost benefit of staying on one versus going to the other? And we've linked the two together now. So we're not just saying, here's where we are and that's where we'd like to be. We now have a roadmap and a cost of all those things, what the benefit, what the ROI would be, and say, after so many years, we would be recovering our cost and becoming more profitable, more efficient again. And now the comparison. Is the current system sufficient? Do we need to make the change to match our future state? What's the cost? How much change is too much? Sometimes you don't want to make major changes because your staff may not be able to keep up, or you don't want to make all the major changes all at the same time. You may want to do it in a phased approach. So those types of things. And is it less expensive in terms of physical costs to be doing each of these different items? Right. And what we've kind of done here now is we've done a comparison. So we would take our results and we would say, we're going to extrapolate these costs that we've done and said, what's the cost now over the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years into the future? So in this example, I've said, if the red line is I stay the course, well, it might be $10,000 a year that it costs me to continue maintaining my system. But in the third year, I have to buy new hardware and I have to upgrade my server software and do those things. So it bumps up to 15 in the third year. And then again, 2 years later, it might have the same type of thing. You may have it. So it's fairly low cost, but every couple of years, you're continuing to increase that amount. The second option would be upgrade and modify. So you may have a large bill in the first year that says, yeah, I'm going to do an upgrade. I'm going to make a bunch of changes and make my system more efficient. But then my costs drop in the second year. With that system, you're still going to have the increase in costs, where every second or third year you're going to be upgrading hardware or making improvements on the system that you have. And those costs will bounce up and down a little bit over the next few years. The third option is our yellow line, I guess, replace the system. So you have your first year costs that say, I'm replacing my system. I'm going to put in a new system that's a little more efficient. But after that, your costs level off. And where this would happen would be on a SaaS system, where you had an in the cloud environment. Your amounts the first year to do the conversion, do the initial setup would be higher, but then after that, you would have a level cost. You'd have the same amount per year ongoing. There is no need for new servers, new software, updates, backups, disaster recovery, any of those kind of things. Cloud service might be one of those ones that provides that to you with having a consistent amount that levels off your costs for the next 4 or 5 years. So you get an option of which way you want to go. And at the end of this, we would say, let's add up our total costs at the end of 5 years and say, if I did each of the 3 options, what would it cost me over 5 years, and what would be my benefit over those same 5 years that we calculated in our cost benefit section. And we would say, this is what we'd be looking at. Which one of these is the better solution? Is major change acceptable up front, and to guarantee us a level costing going forward. All right. So what we're at now is it time for a health check? How do you start? We're kind of all sitting around waiting to get going, and nobody wants to really be the first ones headed out. So do you want to get a health check done on your system? If you do, we can definitely help out. What needs to be done? We need to go through a checklist and start confirming off all the things that we're looking for. So we need to say, is our system sufficient? I lost my spot here. Is it the simple thing to do? We go through and we say yes, no. Are our requirements being met? Are they not being met? Where could be more efficient? We talk to the correct people throughout your system or throughout your company and say, how is yours going? How is your work going? How complicated is it? What would be making your life easier? We do a little bit more investigation to see if there's hidden items that are in there, and then we do a complete health check on the system itself. Are you looking at having to upgrade servers and software, those kind of things right away, or is the existing system going to be sufficient for what you need? So it's very simple. You can do it yourself. Like we've mentioned, you could go through and start documenting all these different things that we've talked about, and you could then do the math, come up with the calculations. The other thing that we've started doing with our clients is SSL has started assisting clients with this process. We can come out and do a health check, ask the questions, what are you doing, what needs to be improved, where could you see a better future state, and we can go through this with you. We can then help you go through the ROI process of which of the 3 different options you would like to go through, and if you choose to look at something else, then there's a list that you have that says, here are all of our requirements, here's where we want to go, and when you start looking at a new replacement system, buying a new car, you need to know, what am I going to use it for? So the health check gives you that ability to plan, purchase a new vehicle, or adjust what you're doing now with data in mind. You're not just making a rash decision and going for there. All right. Oh, there we go. I guess we can open it up now for questions. If anybody has any other questions, I know one of the questions that was asked was, can this slide deck be made available? And yes, we can. We can email this out to everyone after we're finished here. But if anyone has any other questions, let me know.
We'll stay on the line.
Yeah, we can stay on the line for a few minutes. All right, so the first question that's come through is cloud available to a customer like us where we have a lot of customizations? So yes, the answer is yes. Depending on the types of systems you look at, Acumatica is one of the systems that we deal with here. It does allow you to do customizations, even though it's a cloud system. So it can be hosted on a cloud server by the provider, and you can still do your own customizations. You can do your own reporting, anything that you'd like to, and very similar to systems that you've seen in the past, they do not affect the source code. So if the system changes in the background, it doesn't affect the customizations. there any other questions at this time? All right. If there's nothing further, the information up on the screen right now is for our sales department. You'll be contacting myself or Greg here at our office, and we'd be happy to help you out with getting any other information you're looking for. Before I go, there's one more question. Mobile cell phone app support is available for end users. Yes, depending on the systems you go with, most of the new systems these days have a mobile, a cell phone app. They will be able to do it. They come with them. From SSL here, we deal with Deltec Vision and Acumatica, and they're both available with a cell phone or a mobile tablet app that formats the items, the screens down into a more user-friendly version. You can still use the information off of your browser as well, but they do have an app for cell phone support. Okay, as I mentioned, you can contact us at the number or the email on the screen, and we can go from there. Okay, so now one more question. Where would we go to look for third-party solutions for features that SL doesn't provide? Is customer source our resource for that? There is. You can, if there isn't really a centralized location for it anymore, but for SL third-party add-ons, but we have a pretty extensive list of companies that we know are out there, and we have a group of contacts that we can talk to see, okay, has anybody done this type of third-party add-on? So if you're staying with your existing system and you need to add in additional functionality, those are things that we look at. Would it be cheaper to just say, buy a small $2,000 add-on and all your data stays where it is and you don't have to make any changes? That is definitely one of the options that we would look at. I can provide information to you guys about where to get this information and let you know what's out there, and then we can also do a search if there's something very specific that you're looking for. All right, I'll leave it for just another moment, see if there's any other questions. All right, well, I don't see any other questions being typed in or popping up here. If you do have further questions after our meeting is finished, you can send them to sales@ssl-sol.com, and we will get back to you right away with your information. Well, thank you very much for your time today, and we look forward to hearing from you in the future. We'll talk to everyone soon. Thanks.